Perhaps the most important factor contributing to the divergence between policy decisions and actions, however, is the decentralized nature of the American political system. In only the rarest circumstances are the political actors who are responsible for making decisions establishing authorizing policies the same set of actors who are responsible for carrying out policy actions. The constitutional features of the American system in most scenarios require one set of actors to enact policies and another set of actors to implement policies. Federalism and the scheme of separation of powers and checks and balances dispersed policymaking authority widely in the United States. The founders of the American system viewed these structural mechanisms as a means to limit the authority of government and thus protect individual liberties. The constitutional features of American government require consensus to be built up among various actors in several policymaking institutions. The founders understood that if government is structured in a manner that would allow it to act efficiently and effectively when it has the best intentions, it will also be structured to act efficiently and effectively when it has evil intentions. They were willing to live with the consequences of inefficient policymaking in order to preserve liberty. The decentralization of policymaking authority not only requires bargaining and compromise among political actors in the decision-making stage of policymaking, but also results in those actors who are responsible for policy implementation having wide discretion about how to carry out policies. Implementing officials may have perceptions of policy objectives that are inconsistent with the decision-makers who authorize the policy. Implementing actions may significantly diverge from what the decision-makers had intended. Implementing officials may be quietly or openly opposed to the policy objectives and consequently drag their feet, or even refuse to implement the policy. Consider the history of racial integration of public schools during the middle of the 20th century as an illustration of how the constitutional feature of federalism can frustrate policymaking. In 1954, the United States Supreme Court handed down its decision in the landmark case Brown versus the Topeka Board of Education. The High Court held in its decision that the doctrine of separate but equal in the field of public education is inherently unequal and ordered integration, quote, with all deliberate speed, unquote. However, the Supreme Court's order did not automatically transform the nation's schools from segregated to integrated. The 9 Supreme Court justices could not themselves fan out across the country and administer their decision. The practical task of integrating schools fell to state and local officials, many of whom, particularly in the South, openly opposed the court's mandate. While the court provided no specific timetable for achieving integration, it is clear that they intended for their mandate to be implemented as soon as practically possible. However, 10 years after the Brown decision, 99% of black school children in the South attended schools in which the enrollment was 99 to 100% black. By 1968, 76% of black school children in the South attended schools in which the enrollment was majority black. By 1976, fully 60% of black school children attended predominantly black schools. Without engaging a debate over whether justification existed for continued segregation, the point is clear. If someone had asked you in 1965 or 1970, what is the policy of public schools with respect to racial integration in Louisiana or Arkansas or Mississippi or Texas or any number of states in the country, you would have had to confess, if you were an honest person, that the policy was to segregate, not to integrate, despite the Supreme Court's decision in 1954. The policy was determined by the courses of action undertaken by the state governments.